Would you journey to the edge of space in a balloon? Take that one step further, and what if liftoff started from the Grand Canyon, the Serengeti, or the Giza Pyramids? It's technically possible. Well, Worldview is creating experiences like no other 100,000 feet above. And in this interview, we get the details of the highly anticipated take on space tourism, but I also ask the questions that everyone is thinking, like what if you have a panic attack? What do you eat? What if you have to go to the bathroom? Let's get all the details on stratospheric high-altitude space travel directly from President and CEO of Worldview, Ryan Hartman. Well, a true military guy. He is right on time, if not a little bit early. Ryan Hartman, President and CEO of Worldview. I have to thank you so much for your time today, but I only just recently learned, coming from a proud military family, I was extra excited to speak to you because not many people you come across are both Air Force and Navy. And I was like, wow, what a background. Like, what a guy. What an incredible backstory. And, I was listening to this remarkable interview you did with another service member, and thank you for your service.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It was so cool to hear you say that the leadership and the discipline that you have and this with your team, it stems from that military background.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a gift as a leader to have been exposed to that kind of environment and to learn leadership from just incredible humans, incredible men and women that serve as leaders in the military, and to be able to bring that forward is really an amazing gift.
Profound. And to just expand upon your background, because I'm so curious to this moment where, and you tell me how it happened. You received this call from Worldview, or, you had colleagues there to go from the experiences that you did and formerly at a company called In Situ that was also military focused and actually went on to be acquired by Boeing, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
Such a dynamic experience. And I'm wondering what the jump off point to be joining the Worldview team was and how you felt about that.
Well, it's almost full circle, but I mean, let me just start by saying it was like a dream come true in the literal and metaphorical sense. But I was born not too far from where Worldview is headquartered, and my grandfather, my grandpa Hartman, was a ranger not far from here. And there were many, many nights during the summer where we would just sleep out on the grass, overnight and just look at the stars. And I remember asking him lots of questions about, the stars and the cosmos and things like that. And he was a ranger. He didn't have a lot of answers, but I just remember this, yeah, exactly. Yes. I just remember, having this wondrous, experience of looking at the stars and, and trying to fathom what the heck is space, and then to have an opportunity to lead a company like Worldview, not far from where I had those experiences. It's just kind of a strange full circle experience for me in my life. And, I guess in a lot of ways I felt like, after having sat with the reality and this amazing opportunity that I have is almost feels like everything I've done has been leading up to this point. So I feel honored to to be able to bring my life experiences to this kind of role, and and in my own way try and bring some purpose to it, and trying to, assign why do we do what we do, and what is it that we're trying to achieve, and how do we use that to benefit others.
And a perfect segue, because I want to jump right into that. You are, and it feels like part of who you are, a purpose-driven company and a purpose-driven individual leading this company. You are all about the why. Why Worldview? I'll ask you that question. Like, why take on this incredibly Jetsons-like idea that it's happening right now? I remember the first time I covered it, which feels like maybe over a year ago. I was like, this is reality. This is literally happening. Like the why of Worldview, and what gets you excited about entering into this domain?
Yeah, well, the why is quite exciting in and of itself, and I get quite passionate about it, and that is that we exist to inspire, create, and explore new perspectives for a radically improved future. And if I break that down, the idea of an inspired perspective or a new perspective, it's all about creating a new experience, a peak experience for people. And there's actually two sides of our business. There is a side of our business that is space tourism, and another side of our business, which is remote sensing, where we use our technology to create insights into what's happening on the surface of the Earth. And we can talk about both, but on the space tourism side, this inspired perspective, it really is about creating a peak moment, a peak experience in somebody's life. And that comes to, we deliver that through two very specific experiences. One is through where the place that we are delivering the experience to somebody, and then the other is the time that they spend there, right? So I've had a unique opportunity to travel to amazing places around the world, right? And when we were designing our space tourism experience, I started to draw upon places where I had my own profound experience, my own peak experience in life. And it started with, right here close to home with the Grand Canyon. I remember as a child going to the Grand Canyon with my parents and my grandparents and standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon and just like, can't even believe what you're looking at. It's like you cannot fully fathom the size of it. Even when you're standing there, it doesn't compute for you, right? But it was a wondrous experience. And it's one of those, when as a parent, you like the idea of creating memories for kids that are going to last a lifetime. And my experience, the Grand Canyon was one of those. And then, I remember the first time that I saw the Great Barrier Reef, and what an amazing experience that was. I remember my first time seeing the Aurora Borealis and, in northern Norway when I was there, this little town called Andoya, Norway. I remember the first time I saw the Giza pyramids in 1993 and what an amazing experience that was. And I remember my first time to Kenya, my first time to the Amazon. All of these experiences, I thought, well, we could design a space tourism solution around these places because they're wondrous places. And we ended up calling them the 7 Wonders of the World Stratospheric Edition, where, you can introduce people to these places where, just being there on the ground and spending time in those places, that in and of itself is an amazing lifetime experience for people. And then when you couple that with seeing it from the edge of space, then all of a sudden it puts it into a completely different context. One day you're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon, seeing how big it is, and then the next day you're seeing just how small it is in comparison to the size of the planet. And all of a sudden you're seeing the Grand Canyon, and you're seeing Navajo Nation and Hopi Nation, areas that you just spent time at. And you're seeing them without borders. You're seeing them without race. You're seeing them, as part of a living organism, which is our Earth, right? You're seeing the thin blue line that protects it all. And so, like, it's just a way to add to that experience of being there, being up close to all of these wondrous places, and then seeing it in a completely different perspective. I mean, just talking about it, I start to experience it myself. This idea of, of completely changing the way I view the Earth just through those experiences, and those experiences contribute to a radically improved future in a number of different ways. And so, the first half of our why is to, inspire new perspectives. The second half of our why is for a radically improved future. I think you or I would agree that if we saw the planet from a completely different perspective, when we saw it as a living organism, we would have a new relationship with the planet. My hope is that people use that experience to treat it better, but at a minimum have a completely different relationship with the Earth that we live on, and a different relationship with the people that we share this Earth with, right? And that can contribute to a radically improved future in whatever way that makes sense for the individual. Maybe it's that you do treat the Earth a little bit better, but maybe it's that you treat your fellow citizen a little bit better. Maybe it's that you share a story that inspires others. Maybe this experience that you had and the way that you share your story, maybe it inspires others, right? And maybe it just creates a little nugget of something that's a little bit better, so that we can all experience a radically improved future together. It's the campfire effect, right? It's the more people who are around the campfire, like, it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, the circle of people that get to experience your experience of seeing the Earth from the edge of space.
Well, I imagine first they have to have the come down experience because they start
Yes.
profound environment, which I was blown away seeing that you just to prove your point and how intentional you are about your choices and how you lead.
Mhm.
Starting from one of these amazing points that many people hope and sometimes in their lifetime that they even get to
Yeah.
see. You start
Yeah.
there, you go up to
Yeah.
space, and I often reference the Berenstein Bears, like the little sister has too much birthday episode book. Like
Yes.
too much birthday in a sequence of just a matter of hours. But
Yeah.
you're very, again, to use the word intentional about the experience, start to finish, being so
Mm.
dynamic and life changing.
Yeah.
That separates you when it comes to space tourism, correct?
Well, I guess maybe. I mean, I'm not. I don't look at it as how do I differentiate ourselves from others. I look at it more from the it, it, those who are going to experience point of view, right? What I want to deliver is just a profound, life changing experience, right? I hope all others do it, but I'm not trying to differentiate ourselves. I don't view this as a competition. I view it as we all have this amazing opportunity to deliver something truly, truly unique and truly profound to, a much, I'd say a necessary large audience, right?
Mm.
I say that because, I was captured by a Plato quote that I read my early teens. I don't remember how old I was, but I just remember I picked up this book and I opened this book, there was this quote in it, and it said, "For one to truly understand the earth upon which they live, they must travel to the very edge of the atmosphere and beyond. For only then will they understand." Right? And I read that, as a teenager. And
Wow.
I thought, wow, like, what does that mean? Like, like I didn't truly understand it, but it stuck with me even to this day that I read that quote from Plato, and over time I started realizing, oh my goodness, this man was like incredibly wise. Like in the time of Plato, like the idea of leaving this earth was not even possible. Like flying wasn't possible, let alone leaving the Earth's atmosphere, right? But uh, but he knew that in order for one to understand the Earth, you had to leave the Earth, you had to view the Earth from on high. And so, having read that and sat with that for all these years, I realized that our role as space tourism providers is to deliver on that, is to deliver on this opportunity for people to understand our Earth. That in order for us, any of us, to understand it, you have to leave it. And when you talk to people who have left this Earth, when you talk to people who have viewed our planet from afar, they all say the same thing, that they do have a different understanding of our Earth. They do have a different experience and ultimately a different relationship with our Earth.
And speaking to a lot of astronauts, I hear that same exact thing. It just profoundly changes
Yes.
your who you are. It impacts
Yes.
you, as you could imagine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go rogue a little bit with this question because I'm just dying to know, and I'm sure you get every question under the sun. But the preparation, and I think and I pull this from my own lived experience in diving, and sometimes you hit
Yeah.
environments and you're like, whoa, like you start to feel it. You're a very tough person, but you're
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
freaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you had any experiences, or how do you handle the preparation and somebody potentially having a panic attack when you start to
Yeah.
prepare?
Well, so I appreciate you asking that question, because I mean, I've had the same experience. I love the water and I love going diving and I love being, in those uncomfortable environments. But you're right. All of a sudden, you feel your heart rate rising. You like and you can't get out of that environment. And so, what do you do? Um, so there's a number of different things that I think are important to this experience, and uh, it's trying to help prevent that experience for people, right? I want people to be drawn to the view. I want people to be drawn to that life-changing experience, and I'd hate for people to, find themselves in a situation where they just want to sit down and they want to, look in a book or something, and or look at their phone. I mean, that would be devastating for me. And so there's a number of things that I think you have to do. Uh, so first is you have to understand the totality of the environment, and catering to all senses of the human experience. So the music, is an incredibly important component of it. The music has to go along with the experience. It has to be calming. It has to be the kinds of sounds that are more or less healing. And so we draw upon. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'm going to butcher the word, but it's the solfeggio sounds, the solfeggio frequencies. And what those are different healing frequencies, it's the sound of earth, it's the sound of air, it's the sound of love, it's the sound, all of these different sounds that create a healing and calming environment. And so creating music that incorporates those sounds naturally cause us to be calm.
Are those being played in the balloon?
Yes, they'll be played in the capsule. Yeah. So,
Wow, I didn't know.
and so if you have a chance, if you listen to, like, if you watch any of the videos for Worldview, there is a sound that is played at the end of any of our clips where our logo is like vibrating and is taking shape. The sounds that are in that little clip are all of the solfeggio sounds that if you hear them, it's a nice sound. And so when you incorporate that with music, you can create a calming, just through sound, a calming experience. Then smell, right? So you have to have a scent that also contributes to calming. And so the intent is that for any one of these 7 Wonders of the World Stratospheric Edition, that we will pull from the natural flora and fauna to create smells for each of those different spaceports, just like the food, which I'll get to here in a second. But you have to create an environment where it's familiar. You just spent 5 days touring the Navajo Nation, Hopi Nation, the Grand Canyon, the canyon lands around there, and there are natural smells, that come from that. So if you can create some familiarity, to the surrounding area, then you again contribute to a calming sense for yourself. And then the lighting, the colors of the lights, the amount of light, all those kinds of things, again, it contributes to a calming environment. And then serving appropriate and I'll say calming foods, things that that just bring out joy and happiness. That's also very important. And so then the temperature is very important inside of the capsule, right? So make sure that you're not neither cold nor hot. You got to find the right temperature for people. And so all of these things, what you're catering to is the human experience through our senses, right? And when you or I go diving, we don't have those things available to us, right? All we can rely on is, trying to calm ourselves through breath and slowing down our breath, or maybe having happy thoughts or whatever. But in this kind of environment, you can contribute to the human experience in a way that's very unique, right? And if it's curated in the right way, if it's intentional in the right way, I think we can prevent that panic attack, right? Because all of it is contributing to something that calms us, right? So some of us are more calmed by sense, some of us are more calmed by sounds and music, some of us are more calmed by enjoying a meal or a drink or something. And we have to find all of those in a way that not only match the experience of where we're doing it, but also contribute to the customer's experience.
So smart. And I imagine with the price tag, $50,000 price tag, do you have to kind of acquiesce to the clientele? You're not serving like a dozen hot now Krispy Kremes in flight.
I mean, maybe from time to time, but
well, I'm dying to know, like, what is one of the foods that you serve up there? Is it like super fancy, or is it?
Well, we're not down the pathway of designing the individual meals in detail yet, but I can tell you what my vision is for it. So, just like I talked about pulling the sense from each of these places, so the cuisine that we will offer people will be cuisine that is native to the area, right? So when it's the Grand Canyon, I've mentioned Navajo Nation, Hopi Nation a number of times, because this this is their home, right? This is where they have for generations, lived off the land and cared for the land, and raised their families and their for multiple generations in each of these areas. But each of them have their own unique cuisine, and so the experience will be pulling from native ingredients and native or indigenous cooking techniques and create meals based on where they are. Now, for $50,000, it's still a lot of money. And so we will understand for each customer what kinds of things they like, and we'll intersect those with, what's unique in each of these areas, right? And, I envision that each person's meal will be curated for them, right? That we will understand enough about them, and we will have an approach to cultivating a culinary experience that's based on the native areas. Or in Australia, with the Great Barrier Reef, it'll be about uh, um, Queensland, Australia, and some of the native and indigenous foods there. And it's going to be about sea life, and it's going to be about the calming effects of water, and pulling that forward in the culinary experience, the visual experience, the colors. If you've ever had a chance to see the Great Barrier Reef, you know, uh, the colors inside of the space capsule have to match that, right? And you pull all of that together, and to include the dining experience, and it's a unique experience at each of the 7 spaceports.
So for each individual, you start at your destination of choice that you've chosen for
Yeah,
one of the 7 great wonders,
yeah,
and then from my understanding, it's a 2-hour to space. Can you break down like
yeah.
the spent on each?
So, so the total flight is approximately 6 hours. It's about an hour and a half from launch to getting to the apex, the highest point in the flight, which is about 100,000 feet. Then we'll spend 2 to 3 hours there. So I mentioned, that this idea of an inspired perspective. It's about time and it's about place, right? So the time at the max altitude of 100,000 feet, I think, is incredibly important. It's incredibly important because for a period of time, you're not going to completely understand what you're seeing, right? You're going to be looking at this Earth. You're going to see the curvature of the Earth. You're going to see weather forming. You're going to be seeing the termination line of night turning into day, right? You're going to see that moving across the surface of the Earth below you. You're not going to be experiencing it just becoming day. You're going to be watching it become day below you, right? And so I don't believe that we can fully comprehend what we're witnessing in a few minutes. I believe that it's important to spend time and hours and see change happening, and to get comfortable with it, and and to have your own experience with that, of looking at different things. At one point, you know any one of us, I think, maybe it's just me, I don't know. I spend time like looking at Google Maps, or Google Earth, and like looking at all the places that are familiar, right? I want to look at my childhood homes, or like
Oh yeah.
you know so my expectation is that people are going to be spending time trying to pick out the areas where they were just adventuring the previous 5 days. They're going to be looking for that point that they were standing on next to the Grand Canyon. They're going to be looking at that point where they had dinner with Navajo Nation leaders. They're going to be looking for that point where the spaceport is. They're going to be looking for all those things that are familiar, and that will take time, right? It's that's going to be part of the experience. And then I expect that all of a sudden they're going to be, wait, like, oh my goodness, like I'm looking at the Grand Canyon, and there's the Pacific Ocean, and there's the Sea of Cortez, and like all of a sudden it's going to be clear to them how expansive it is. And that in and of itself is going to be part of the time consuming aspect of it. Is I want to like take in as much as I can, and then all of a sudden somebody's going to look up and they say, oh my goodness, it's daylight and I'm looking at the stars, right? And now all of a sudden there's a different part of the experience, a different phase where you're taking in the expansiveness of space above you, right? And so you know I I often hear people say, "Oh wow, like 2 to 3 hours. It sounds like a long time." I'm pretty sure that people are going to be like, wait a second, like, no, I'm not ready to come down yet because like I'm having all of these different experiences. And I think there are these multiple phases of the experience that are really, really important. So that's the 2 to 3 hours. So it's an hour and a half to go up, 2 to 3 hours when we're up there. And then it'll be about an hour to get down. And that'll be part of an amazing experience as well, right? Because you're starting the reintegration process at that point. You're re-entering, the totality of Earth's atmosphere. You're all of a sudden the darkness of space goes away. You're starting to like spend the time then in this gentle ride back down to the surface of the Earth, going through your integration process of what did I just experience, and getting closer and closer and closer to the Earth. And I think that the slower that happens, and I think an hour is about right, I think the better we are contributing to that integration process, right? Because you're slowly re-entering it instead of just like, if you're coming in on a space capsule, at Mach 8 and re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, I guess a very abrupt and a very exciting experience. And there is a place for that. And I think that, as an engineer, I love, that phase of, re-entering Earth's atmosphere. But that's not what we're going for. What we're going for is like a true, I keep going back to a peak experience, and you have to cultivate it in a way where the entire thing is like contributing to, what you experienced, not the thrill of it, but maybe it's the spirituality of it, maybe it's just the life-changing aspects of what you just experienced. And I think the whole thing has to be cultivated in that way.
Amazing. I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions and we're going to close
Okay.
out briefly in a few sentences talking about your stratospheric other kind of side of
Yes.
you.
Yes.
So questions that we probably all have. Wi-Fi on board? Yes or no?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Wow.
Well, yeah, we'll encourage people not to do that, but I do think that like it is important to be able to share the experience, in real time. I think being able to send a picture like I'm in space, right? We don't get that text message very often, right? And so what a unique experience that is, you know. But also, yes, for that experience where you want to have a couple-minute FaceTime call or something, yeah, I think that's important. I think it's an important part of the experience overall.
Here's a question you didn't see coming. Restrooms on board.
Yes, of course.
How do you do that?
Well, it's kind of like an airplane
Oh, that's
bathroom. So
generous.
yeah, yes, it's a fairly large capsule. So it's 10 people total, 2 crew members and 8 passengers. There's a pilot on board, and then there is a concierge on board, right? So the pilot is, they're not actually flying it, but they're there to operate the system and to help explain what's happening in different phases of the flight. Maybe they're going to draw people's attention to something, that's below us. And then the concierge is all about, elevating the experience for the customers, making sure they get the cocktail or the drink of their choice, that they get the food at the right time, that, that they're comfortable and all of that.
Well, surveys say that everybody's interested in experiences now. So I don't
Yes.
think you could do any better than this. And I guess that leads to my final rapid fire question is how many people and what is the interest in terms of reservations thus
Yeah,
far?
yes, it's actually been a profound, eye-opening experience for me in seeing how many people are interested. And so, when we opened up the reservation portal, very quickly grew to around 1,200 customers who have signed up around the world. And so,
Wow.
my expectations were, we'd get hundreds of people to sign up. I never expected, it'd be over 1,000. And since then we have stopped taking reservations. We've just slowed it down just because, that's a lot of people to deliver this experience to, and we want to make sure we're getting it right and that we're able to assure safety and all those kind of things. And so, and I don't want it to be a very long, like an extremely long wait. It is, we're still several years away from being able to deliver this on a commercial scale. But I want to make sure that people aren't waiting, 5 years, 6 years to have the experience. I want to make sure that that we can cater to those 1,200 people, that we can be providing them meaningful updates. We have a lot of them that come visit us and take a tour of the facility that's behind me here, and they can see where we manufacture balloons. We have a mock-up of the space capsule here, and so they can see that it's all real, and they can see that the work we're doing, and start to get comfortable with it as well.
And I thought it was a fake background, by the way. And then I
Oh,
started seeing
no.
people walk through
Yeah,
it.
people are
I was
walking.
amazed. I was like, what a
Yeah.
facility.
Yeah.
That is not a WeWork site. Okay.
No, it's not a WeWork site. No, it's not a fake background. That's our launch facility up there. You can't really see it, but that's our launch pad
So
right
good.
here.
And
Yeah.
am I an idiot to ask you how many balloons do you have? Like, will be launching when you are ready?
Yeah, I mean, so the ultimately at scale, we'll be doing at least 100 launches from each of the 7 spaceports per year, right? So, so that's once every 3 days or so. The importance of it is you don't want to be doing it so frequently, that it just feels like kind of a factory of people turning over, and not being able to have the full experience. So, you want it to be in a way where maybe there's overlap of several flights of people at the spaceports at a time, but you want to make sure that each of their experience is the same, right? And so we are a for-profit business. We do need to make money, right? And so finding that balance of what is the number of flights we need to do, coupled with the number of people that we need to be able to servicing. That's one of the important things about having 7 spaceports around the world is we can scale it by having these numerous places where we're doing it, and each of them will be their own unique experience. And of those 1,200 people, I should clarify, it's not 1,200 people, it's 1,200 reservations. One of the things that I'm excited about is how many people have bought reservations at multiple spaceports. So a single person saying, I want to experience all 7,
Oh,
right? Which I think is fascinating, right? Because they're already recognizing, that each one of these will be a completely different experience.
oh, that's so smart.
Yeah.
Call me when you're ready. We'll do the first TV exclusive from the balloon to share one of the many experiences. But
Yeah, so Katie, I would love for that to have been the case, but unfortunately, others have already
no doubt. I'm
cornered
not
me
the
on that.
only smart person in the room here. Okay, close me out because we talk about how this is a business, and I'm
Yeah.
amazed by you're smart. There's stratospheric technologies, and you're actually been utilizing that as
Mhm.
a separate business entity.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, so our remote sensing business, it all goes back to our why, inspire perspectives for a radically improved future. And so, what we have learned is that from the stratosphere and the kinds of sensors that we can carry on our systems, we can create very unique perspectives and create insights into what's happening on the surface of the Earth. So a great example, the one I like to share with people is, the ability to detect methane, right? So methane is, an an oversaturation of methane in the Earth's atmosphere is very damaging to the Earth, right? And so methane detection is really important. Well,
Mm.
from the stratosphere, we're high enough that we can see a very long, a very broad area, uh, but we're close enough that we can see in great detail. And so what that means is, let's say, for example, I'm operating in the Permian Basin in Southwest Texas. I can see a significant portion of the Permian Basin, and I can be detecting methane from all of these different infrastructure sites. And so the radically improved future comes in, after we're gathering this data, we're creating information from this data, we can then turn that into a radically improved future by turning it into knowledge. And that knowledge being telling an oil and gas infrastructure operator that, hey, you have a significant leak in this portion of your infrastructure, and here's all the information you need to go fix it, right? So that there's the front end of it, of an inspired perspective where you're creating a unique insight into what's happening on the surface of the Earth. and transitioning that into go do something about it so that we all can experience a radically improved future by taking care of the planet. And so on the remote sensing side, it's all about collecting unique data and then applying that data to a way where there's knowledge created for a customer to do something useful with it.
Ryan Hartman, CEO and President of Worldview. I hear your computer beeping. You've been so generous with your time for the next meeting. Thank you so much. I'm so pumped. Stay tuned and excited for you in the future. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Katie.
Well done. Get out of here. I know you have another meeting probably.
Yes, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
If you like this video, we always appreciate you hitting that like button. And of course, to see more mind-blowing innovations, interviews with top technologists and inventors, and tech tips that'll make your life easier, make sure to hit subscribe. I'm Katie Linendoll, and don't give up the ship.